This time, I will explain the book, Living a Happy Life on an Annual Salary of 900,000 Yen, written by Henri Ohara. This book is recommended for those who have anxiety about the future, those who want to live without working, and those who do not know what happiness is. Going to school or getting a job isn't necessarily necessary, right? I hate working in a hurry. I don't need to live in luxury, I just want to live freely. The author, Mr. Ohara, holds such views. Mr. Ohara lives happily with a 5-day weekend and an annual salary of 900,000 yen. It's not because he won a lottery or made a fortune in stocks. He simply manages his life on an annual salary of 900,000 yen. Reading this book makes you realize that there are indeed different people out there, and it certainly makes you think that pursuing one's happiness is indeed what life is all about. So, as usual, I will first state the conclusion of this video. The conclusion is that the form of happiness varies from person to person. What's important is your own single word over 100 good words from others. In this video, I will explain in the following order. 1. Is societal success equal to personal happiness? 2. How to live on an annual salary of 900,000 yen, and 3. The strongest way of living in the modern era. Please enjoy. Is societal success equal to personal happiness? Of course not. What makes one happy and what constitutes happiness varies from person to person. For some, acquiring money or fame may be happiness. For others, it might be building a happy family, or spending as much time as possible playing games. It's different for everyone. Therefore, it's crucial to think about one's own happiness as an individual. The author, Mr. Ohara, lives with a 5-day weekend, on an annual salary of 900,000 yen. He used to live in the suburbs of Tokyo. But at the time of writing, he has moved to Taiwan. The reason is that it's already known that one can live in a shared house in Tokyo, with a 5-day weekend and an annual income of 900,000 yen. Now, the experiment is underway, to see if this lifestyle is feasible overseas as well. Going back to the time when I lived in Tokyo, I was working 2 days a week in caregiving, which amounted to an annual income of 900,000 yen. So I guess my daily pay was just under 9,000 yen. Working 2 days a week and having the remaining 5 days off, I lived quite leisurely. It's not like I was originally wealthy, or made a fortune in stocks or won the lottery. I was simply managing my life on an annual income of 900,000 yen, living almost like a hermit. This is a very interesting way of life. Well, it does seem like such a lifestyle is possible. As for how exactly I lived, I'll delve into that later. First, I must say that Mr. Ohara is an avid reader. He utilizes his 5-day weekends to devour books. Libraries are free, so he makes full use of them, reading books from all genres. I believe that such reading has nurtured Mr. Ohara's thoughts and values. I must mention this beforehand. Yes, Mr. Ohara says this, one's own single approval is more important than 100 likes from others. Yes, I really think that's true. Again, what makes one happy varies from person to person, yet, there seems to be a tendency for too many people to chase societal success, as if it's the only way. According to hearsay, Mr. Ohara suggests that we should focus more on our own happiness. We should decide how to live our lives based on our goals. For Mr. Ohara, the goal is to avoid doing things he dislikes, such as working jobs he doesn't want to, working long hours, and having no free time. So, what are the means to avoid these dislikes? Reducing material desires and lowering living expenses are the methods. Essentially, it's about what order of priorities suits oneself. Is a life with no money but plenty of freedom better, or is a life with decent money, but less freedom better? It's about finding the right balance that suits oneself. In Mr. Ohara's case, it's quite extreme, as he doesn't require much money and values his time greatly. This lifestyle is possible because Mr. Ohara values freedom, likes being alone, doesn't care about public opinion, and is optimistic. He also states that it's important not to die doing things you hate. It might be important to live doing what you love, but avoiding dying doing things you hate is much more important, he argues. I agree with this point. So, that's the discussion about whether societal success equals personal happiness. Next, let's talk about how to live on an annual salary of 900,000 yen. Here, we'll discuss necessities like clothing, food, and shelter. First, about clothing in the modern age. there are plenty of good, inexpensive clothing options. Brands like Uniqlo and GU are sufficient. Next, regarding food, the monthly food cost is 10,000 yen. The basic diet consists of brown rice, miso soup, pickles, and one side dish. It's not fixed, and various dishes are cooked and enjoyed. Eating less not only keeps the food cost down but also seems to improve health. Regarding housing, at that time, I lived in the suburbs of Tokyo, in a place with a rent of 28,000 yen and a maintenance fee of 1,500 yen. It was a 5-tatami room with a bath, toilet, and a loft, and the nearest station was a 20-minute walk away. The location was far from supermarkets and convenience stores. Next, about fixed expenses, the total monthly cost for utilities, water, electricity, and Wi-Fi is 15,000 yen. Lastly, other expenses include dining out about once a month, and occasionally going to hot springs. Summing it up, the food cost is 10,000 yen, rent and maintenance fees total 29,500 yen, and fixed costs are 15,000 yen, making the total 54,500 yen. Finally, including other expenses, the total monthly expenditure is about 61,000 yen. With an annual income of 900,000 yen, the monthly income is 75,000 yen, which matches perfectly. It's surprisingly doable. However, a question arises: what about taxes? Apparently, with an annual income of 900,000 yen, you're ignored by the administration, and there are no notifications for income tax or residence tax. As for pension, it can be exempted upon application, but in Mr. Ohara's case, since his income increased due to book sales, he has paid back his pension and now pays taxes. So, that's all about money management. Surprisingly, it's possible to get by on 900,000 yen with a bit of ingenuity, working only 2 days a week and having 5 days off. One might wonder what he does usually. He makes extensive use of free things like libraries and parks, and enjoys walking and exploring. Nowadays, he has more writing work, and his style seems to be changing to doing work that he wants to do freely. I really recommend reading this book, it's interesting. This is probably because Mr. Ohara is exposed to a large amount of text every day. He introduces Buddhist concepts and intersperses them with scientific insights, making the discussion interesting. Another question that may arise is whether this way of living is anxiety-inducing. In response, he says he has savings and is not anxious. It depends on the person, but having savings for about half a year's living expenses can provide mental comfort. Savings being important is a frequent topic on this channel. Indeed, not having savings can lower IQ and decision-making ability. According to scientific studies, having savings certainly brings mental comfort. So, that's Mr. Ohara's lifestyle. Although this way of living is extreme, it is his choice. Mr. Ohara himself is the type who really likes being alone, values freedom, doesn't care about public opinion, and is optimistic. This lifestyle works for him precisely because of these traits. Admittedly, it's quite an extreme way of living, and I doubt many people would want to directly imitate it. What's important is what we can learn from this. This isn't just about this book, but whenever you read any book, it's crucial to touch upon a single idea or thought and think, that makes sense. Then, ask yourself how you can apply what you've learned to your own life, what you should adopt, or whether there's nothing you can adopt. Having this perspective is important. It's crucial to think for yourself. After all, it's your life. So, that's about how to live on an annual salary of 900,000 yen. Next, about the third topic, the strongest way of living in the modern era. In conclusion, it's about living on a low cost of living, while broadcasting what you love. This way of living is an option in the modern era, and I believe it's one of the strongest ways to live. The reason is that it's an era where you can earn money by broadcasting on the internet, and furthermore, things necessary for living are inexpensive nowadays. Let's delve deeper. In today's era, there are too many benefits to broadcasting on the internet. The advantages of internet broadcasting include receiving feedback, connecting with people who share similar values, and the ability to earn money. Therefore, living frugally while broadcasting on the internet can be a very good way of living for those it suits. Naturally, there are likes and dislikes, but for those who it suits, it can be a very good way of living. For example, earning about 80,000 yen a month through part-time work, and on days off from the part-time job, enjoying cost-free entertainment, or broadcasting on the internet about what you love or are good at. This kind of broadcasting could be through YouTube, blogs, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, audio media, and more. If you do it seriously, you can earn an income of about 50,000 to 100,000 yen a month within half a year to a year, and if you study hard and do it seriously, the income can be limitless. It is, after all, a world with such dreams. In the past, this wasn't possible, but now, these options are available. In the past, necessities like food and shelter were not so cheap, and individuals couldn't broadcast. However, in the modern era, if you're living alone, you don't need a lot of money, and there's an environment for individuals to broadcast. Therefore, living frugally and broadcasting what you like, and are good at on the internet can be a very good lifestyle choice, especially for someone like Mr. Ohara, who loves being alone, loves freedom, and doesn't care about public opinion. It's suitable. In fact, I live a similar lifestyle and am very satisfied. Being able to earn income by broadcasting what I like, and am good at on the internet, while keeping living expenses low is a great fortune for us born in this era. So, that's about the strongest way of living in the modern era. Finally, let's summarize the content. 1. Is societal success equal to personal happiness? Of course not. We should think about happiness as an individual. 2. How to live on an annual salary of 900,000 yen. In the modern era, where necessities are cheap, it's possible to live on 900,000 yen. 3. The strongest way of living in the modern era is to lower living costs while broadcasting what you like and are good at. The benefits of broadcasting on the internet are too many. The importance of broadcasting will likely increase in the future. Please consider it. Today's thought: I think Mr. Ohara is cool. Why? Because he has his unwavering access and lives his life accordingly. On this channel, I always talk about how having your own access and unwavering values has many advantages. Mr. Ohara is precisely the person who has such an access, and his life seems enjoyable from his writing. Let's all have our own access. The book I introduced this time, Living a Happy Life on an Annual Salary of 900,000 Yen, still has many parts I haven't covered. It's a recommended book, so please read it.